Here we are laying out design number 1, just to give you an idea how the pieces come together. We lay the pieces out on the suede that need to be trimmed. So all we do is cut around the material a couple inches around the insert piece. Next, we're going to pull the material away, since we've already cut the material that we need for this piece. And then we're going to find the other insert piece that goes inside, so we know based on the graphics and how this parts were cut, all we need to do is cut out the gray. These two pieces on top of the blank board are going to be upholstered in the gray. This is just a sample board to show you how simple and easy it is to upholster this panel system. The reason we cut everything out at the same time is so we make sure that the materials are being cut the same direction. That way, after the upholstery is completed, all of the suede brush is going the same direction. Once this is trimmed, then we start with the gluing process. Again, this is just a sample panel to give you an idea of the simple process that we go through. This is a blank panel. That's the silver, and this is the burgundy. So what we do from here is we'll cut the gray suede, so we keep these two parts separated, and begin the gluing process. From here, we set the pieces up so we don't get confused on how the pieces are going to be laid in place. This can be done a different way, where we glue the complete back of the burgundy just to get the glue process started. And once we have glue on here, we start gluing the pieces. I always glue all my pieces on top of the material being glued. That way we don't get any glue on the table or other pieces around us. Everything gets glued, and any glue that goes over the sides of the actual graphic is actually going on the material that needs to have glue on it anyway. So from here, we just continue to add the glue onto the back of the suede. We set these pieces to the side while we glue up the other gray pieces. Again, simple process, glue on top of the material. Depending on how many different colors you have and how many different pieces will determine how the parts and pieces actually get glued up. But in this panel system, we do what's called a layering system. Also, depending on the graphics, will determine whether we're upholstering from top to bottom or from left to right. This is the top piece, and what we want to do is glue all of the foam, and then we want to glue the material, and then we want to come back after it's all glued to each other and trim the suede. This is a contact adhesive. You don't need too much drying time. You can actually just stick the material, take a razor blade, and cut it about 3/8 of an inch from the cardboard. The top we leave long, the sides we leave long, but that bottom part, we're going to end up gluing that over before we do the layering system. On this piece, we only need to cut part of the side of the material, and we'll show you why in a minute. These pieces we're going to actually glue to the panel. So we flip them over and glue the cardboard section. Again, we always glue everything on top of what we're working on to keep from getting glue on the other parts around us. You'll notice we just move the part onto the panel to keep us from spraying on top of the table. We don't want to put the suede on top of glue that might have accidentally got spilled onto the table. Now that it's glued, we just flip the part over and stick it to the panel. It lines up on the bottom and on the side and goes in place perfectly. The bottom edge of this piece stays long, but the side and top will be trimmed to right around 3/8 of an inch. In the corner, we might want to trim that a little bit tighter around the edge so there's less material when it's time to fold it over. On the material, we want to pull the material away from the corner. I'll show you how that's done right here. I stick the corner and start pulling the material around the sides. The part that stays long will be the part on the bottom. Everything else gets stuck directly to the back side of the panel board graphic. We lay this in place just long enough to set this other piece in place so we know exactly proper fitment. Then we lift out the suede piece, secure it, and add the suede. You can use any kind of tool to run that in. I personally prefer just to check everything with my finger first to make sure before I stick everything in place. Suede's relatively easy to work with. You can just push everything into place. Again, this is a simple process. This piece can be cut to relieve the tension, or it can be cut to pull the whole centerpiece out. Depending on the trimmer, everybody has their own unique style. As long as everything is glued, everything will stay in place. That top edge is being folded over, so when we flip that panel piece around, that will actually be the bottom edge that goes against the top section. That will lay in on the other material that was glued to the panel. The ends just get folded down into place straight from the edge. We check fitment before we add the glue. Make sure everything lines up on the sides, the top, and the back. We just want to flip it over, get a good look at it, check fitment, see how everything's lining up. And then we'll start pulling the darker color and glue it around the edge. This being a layering process, certain pieces need to get glued first. The first ones that were glued in place will be the first ones that get glued around the back. These pieces need to be pulled tight before they're secured to the back of the panel. We come back by razor blade and we clean up that cut. Notice the gray pieces are still laying down against the table. The burgundy suede will first be trimmed before the gray is glued in place. Then we come back by and glue up the gray, fold that over, pull it tight, and start pulling the material away from the corner. The more you pull material away from the corner, the less chance of having wrinkles. When these final pieces are glued in place, the glue is sprayed on top of the suede and the cardboard. And since these pieces are cut to line up exactly with the material clearances already gapped, after everything's upholstered and laid in place, everything fits perfectly. This is the last piece that needs to get folded around the edge. This will get trimmed, glued, and folded over. These edge pieces need to be pulled straight, so when the panel's in place on the car, your lines are straight, pulling away from the corner to leave less wrinkles in the corner. And once everything's pulled around the back, clip off the excess material and flip the panel over, and there you have it. The other samples above show the different ways that this design can be upholstered. The same design giving different looks and effects. Thank you for watching.